The Amber Alert Podcast.
That my little video didn't play. This is Amber Alert Podcast, episode 113, part 1. I am your host, Amber Starkey. It's a great day to be alive. My hair is disgusting, as per usual. Not only do I not really have time to do it, I also don't really care. But I do wish it didn't look the way that it does. Okay. I'm going to just say ahead of time, there is some seriously disgusting stuff that I'm going to read today. It's horrible. It's not full of like profanity. It's just disgusting. It's sort of the face of the worst of humanity, like how evil people actually are. So I will try to say something again when the time gets closer to me reading that stuff, but it's terrible and disturbing. I can't say it's surprising because these are the times in which we're living that things are going to wax worse and worse according to the Bible. So people will invent new ways of doing evil. So it's just, it's gross, it's horrible, but it is where we are. Not sure where we stand with Iran. I don't know if anyone knows. We're getting conflicting reports. The Iranians are saying one thing, and then Trump's like, listen, that is not the deal that I made. So no one really knows. We've been told like 100 times that we've made a deal and then nothing happens. So I don't know where we are. It kind of seems like I literally saw like yesterday or 2 days ago that the conflict is over, and yet it's not at the same time. So I don't know what's going on. Anyway, we'll go ahead and get into the news. Part 2, I want to talk about ghosts and haunted houses, which of course I don't like. Being a Christian, I don't take the world's view on that subject, but I do want to address it because there is something real about it. I probably just have a different interpretation. We'll look into some stuff, a couple of cases. I have a video. And then in part 3, my favorite, we'll get into the Bible. And we're going to talk about knowing your covenant, not submitting again to a yoke of slavery, and understanding what it really means when things are a shadow of things to come. So we'll get into that in part 3, but let's go ahead with part 1. So Benny Johnson said, this is the most shocking image on the internet right now. The video is too graphic to even post. A Sudanese migrant was caught trying to behead a white man in the streets of Belfast. The man is now in critical condition after bystanders stopped in and stopped the attack. We don't have to live like this. This third world invasion is killing the West. Yeah, so that happened like earlier this week. That is awful. Last I heard hold on. I didn't mean to put that up. Last I heard, the person is in critical condition, but they are alive. So however he tried to behead someone, I guess it didn't work. Or maybe he got interrupted before he finished. I don't know. Prayers for that person that they pull through. They got some major problems in Europe if they're not going to handle the unchecked immigration, and especially when a crime is committed, if they're not going to do anything about it. Then you're going to have a bunch of vigilantes on your hand, probably, who are going to be like, look, if the government won't do anything when people get raped or murdered, then we'll do something. So it'd be better if they just held people accountable, but Next. After living as a man for 7 years, woman says God restored her identity. Praise God. See, he can fix anybody. You can be a devil-worshipping, furry, trans person with plans to shoot up an elementary school. And if you come to Jesus, he will fix you from the inside out, make you a new person, give you a new heart. Nobody is beyond saving. So way to go. Great job. God bless you, whatever your name is. Next. So Gustavo Petro said, Hail Hitler. Okay. The president of Colombia. He tweeted that. You know what's crazy is, whoops, I didn't mean to hit the mic. Even like 2 years ago, you nobody would say that. Unless you're an actual Nazi, like, because I think there are groups with swastika tattoo. The guy that just won the main primary. So it's like there is a small group of them, but you would never, ever see someone with a following like the president of a country who would tweet that. And now people aren't even shy about it. You have people straight up leaving comments like, no, I think Hitler was a good guy. Actually, Hitler knew something. He was ahead of his time. He tried to tell us. I never thought I would live to see the day there would be Hitler sympathizers. Now, I understand X, like if you get your news from X, it's overrun by bots. Like there are tons of bot accounts. So it's difficult to say if what you're seeing is what an actual person thinks. Let's hope it's not. But so it's hard to say, but I hope surely there aren't people who actually like Hitler. For the love of God. I don't know how we got here. Next. Journalist George Knapp says that two scientists working at Skinwalker Ranch told him they witnessed a glowing portal open in the air and that a humanoid figure stepped out of it before disappearing. That's not the first time I've heard that, unless I'm confusing two different stories, but there are actual reports of people who were there at Skinwalker Ranch. They intentionally went and set up like video cameras because that place is weird. It's like full of the devil. Pretty much every unreal evil thing that happens on earth that people see is like at Skinwalker Ranch. I don't know entirely why. I've done whole episodes on it. But there are people who said they saw something open and something humanoid walked out of a seeming, it looked like a portal or whatever. So you can make up your own mind if you believe that or not. I believe it because I believe in the supernatural. And that place is weird, got a lot of problems. And the house, the house, I even looked into the people living in the house there. And I was like, I guarantee there's no way they're living in peace. If all that stuff is happening on this ranch and in the surrounding areas, there's no way that house is having problems. And sure enough, people living in the house reported sounds in the house. In fact, when they moved, the door had locks like the opposite way you would think. Like it's the whole, clearly whoever lived there before was like scared of something. And then they said there were weird, basically influences in the house. So yeah, demons, but no surprise. Next, Colin Roog. Scientists are one step closer to creating designer babies. Okay, so eugenics, after they precisely edited human embryo genes for the first time, according to the New York Times. That's not a good idea, guys. Whoever that guy, Dr. something at Columbia University, was reportedly able to replace individual genetic letters in sequences of DNA. First of all, why are you trying to do that? But the edits were still not perfect. Sometimes the base editing molecules failed to find their target DNA. As a result, some cells in the embryos retained the original versions of the genes, while others were altered, the New York Times reported. Those embryos became genetic mixtures, so-called mosaics. Having cells with different versions of the same gene could have led to medical problems had the embryos developed into babies. Yeah, maybe don't mess with don't try to create, don't Dr. Frankenstein things. You're asking for trouble. Nobody read the book. Has nobody seen the movie? I understand it's a movie, it's a book, but like literally there's a lesson in it. Don't start trying to create people. You're asking for problems. It's the same with robots. I don't know how many movies do we have to have about there being giant robots? When I say giant, like human-sized or even bigger. If you're going to make robots, which I'm not even against, at least make them small enough that they probably couldn't kill a person. Because if they're AI generated, they get hacked by a psychopath. Now somebody's got a robot in their house that they just wanted to help them clean or whatever, and it can be programmed to kill someone. Weren't we warned by movies, guys? Come on, just make the robots a little bit smaller and killable. Next. Wait, is this what I just read? No. Okay. Canadian Armed Forces veteran Devin Larrett, sorry if I said that wrong, says he has encountered an 8-foot tall giant in Afghanistan discusses the famous Kandahar giant story. That is a true story. That's a true story. I don't have time to get into it. I've done I think maybe multiple episodes on it. That happened. Lara also shared a story about encountering giants in northern Canada. Interesting. I saw those guys up north, northern Canada, whatever. I'm like 6'5". I was about at his nipple. You're pretty close then if you can see nipples on a giant. Recently we did an episode on the one supposedly seen in Mexico that Troy Brewer saw, but that's not the only report that came out. There's actually a video, and I put it in the episode. There's a video of someone filming something that it's from a distance and they're way zoomed in. But here's the thing, the video came out before AI. So I know now you can post anything and everyone's like, oh, that's AI. It's like, no, actually some of the stuff existed before AI, believe it or not. So something came out of what sort of looked like a doorway in the rock in the mountain, and it looked humanoid, so in my opinion, it's probably just another Kandahar giant situation, which I believe is just the Nephilim from the Bible, the giants that the Bible talks about, that giant bones have been unearthed virtually all over the world, quite a bit here in America, some in South America and other places like that, in the Middle East, in Greece, like everywhere. So of course that's swept under the rug. But if you really want to find it, you can find like straight up newspaper articles from the 1800s where they unearthed giant bones. Even Abraham Lincoln made comments saying that he saw them. And then, all of that just conveniently disappears. But it tells us, that when the Bible talks about there being giants in the land, which were not human, by the way, they were the offspring of the fallen angels and the human women, the Nephilim. And that's why he's like, go kill them. Those bones are still being found. So I wouldn't, be surprised if there are still some around. I don't know from how old they are, but there have been enough reports where people have seen something, or like in Mexico, caught something on video that I believe it. Because again, Kandahar, that thing that happened. Next. Anna Paulina Luna, my legislation to require influencers to disclose payments from foreign governments will be introduced this week. Good. That's good. Next. Outrage. HelloFresh goes full Pride Month cringe with crude bottoms up discount code. Grindr jumps into comments. So I don't know. I can't read what their official statement is. I still laugh. I still laugh. I remember Burger King just probably a few years ago. They wanted to show that they support, LGBTQIA plus, whatever it is now. And so they did an ad showing like a burger, and the top bun and the bottom bun were the same. And I thought, what a dumb ad. What do you think gay people are going to look at that and be like, wow, I feel so loved and so seen by Burger King because they used a top bun for both the top of the burger and the bottom. That really resonates with me. Like, if you want to show support, just make a statement that's like, hey, wishing you guys a happy Pride Month. We love you. Like, why can't you do that? But you're using the same type of bun. And then the even dumber one in Europe, I think it was Europe. It may have been a car company or something. So obviously, you know how like airplane seat belts, well, all seat belts, they have a female end and a male end, and they have to click, or else your seat belt's not on. And so they put together this stupid poster, and it was like the top was like a male and a male end, the middle was like male and female, and the bottom was like female and female. And they're like, no matter how you like to wear your seat belt, just so you know, it's your time to shine or whatever. And everyone's like, listen, if you want your seatbelt to work, you're going to have to go with the middle option, or that thing's not locked into place and you're going to get thrown out of the car in the event you have a wreck. So it's like, if you want to show support, just make a normal statement or a normal ad, but something stupid like that it's just dumb. Anyway, next. All right, hold on a second. Now I'm going to issue a disclaimer, because before I read this, just know it's disgusting and disturbing. It's graphic, and it made me a little sick to my stomach. And people who are like not in support of us dismantling that regime in Iran, it's not the country of it's not even Muslims, okay? And it's not the country of Iran, it's that specific regime. It's a death cult. They're terrorists. They're the worst people. Even notice how no one's come to help them. You have they're in a conflict with like even other Muslim countries are like, yeah, they're insane. We're not going to help them. I hope they get blown up. So I'm going to read this. This is disgusting. And this is literally what they believe. And the reason why there's a divide between the type of Muslims who've been running Iran and then like other Muslims is because the ones running Iran, they actually believe that they need to create as much chaos as they can because it will usher in their Mahdi, or however you say it, which is like the final thing that needs to happen before the end. And so they think they're literally supposed to create like terrorism and do these unspeakable things, which is why the other Muslims don't even like them, because they're like, no, we really don't need to do that. Which is why no one's come to help them, because they're nuts. So I'm going to read this. This is what they believe. And what's interesting about Islam is, they're very strict on like drinking. They will kill people if they're caught like having sex or something like that. And they're like super religious about certain things, but then they'll go do the worst thing you've ever heard. And like pedophilia is okay. And they can just beat their wives and all kind of stuff like that. So it's like, do you have morals or not? Clearly you don't. But so I'm going to read this. This is what they believe, and it's terrible. So maybe stop watching if you don't want to hear it, because it made me a little sick, but I am going to read it. Okay. This is what they believe. It is not gay if the prisoners bleed and faint from the pain. So what are we talking about? Iran's ayatollahs issued religious rulings obliging regime agents to rape male prisoners and inflict unbearable pain, specifically to avoid homosexuality charges. The ruling requires rape by several male agents to ensure the victim does not enjoy it, bleeds heavily, and suffers extreme trauma. In 2009, after the disputed election and amid widespread reports of prison rape and torture, Ayatollah Mohammed, whatever his name is, ordered the IRGC and morality police to rape female prisoners for pain, trauma, and discipline. The instructions told agents to satisfy themselves and Allah vaginally or anally, preferably without witnesses, after performing washing and prayer rituals. For male prisoners, rape is considered permissible and dedicated to Allah. It is to be carried out with other agents who ensure the victim feels no pleasure, only maximum pain, often resulting in severe injury or death. These practices are not isolated incidents. They have been reported for years in Iran's most notorious prisons, including, however you say that and that, backed by multiple testimonies and human rights documentation. This is the true face of the Islamic Republic. Remember, this is like Iran specifically. Other like Muslim countries aren't even like going to be doing this. A regime that claims religious and moral superiority while officially sanctioning the systemic rape of its own citizens as a tool of control and punishment. This is not a deviation from Islam. It is a logical application of Sharia-based jurisprudence when the state has absolute power. The same regime that Western politics still try to negotiate with, appease, and sometimes even legitimize. You see what I'm saying? Why I'm all for, like, it's great if you can make a deal. Like, it's awesome if you can avoid war and conflict. That's great. That should be everybody's first choice. But when it comes to people like that, you just can't really negotiate. They'll say, oh yeah, sure, okay. And then turn around and do stuff like that, turn around, and as soon as they can, violate whatever word they gave you. So that's the kind of people you're dealing with running that country, which is why any decent person should want to see the Iranian people free, because they were at one point. That country was like a Middle East version of Europe before. When did those Ayatollahs move in? I think it was like 1979 or 8. Yeah. So it was like they were free. They had like life, and then that terrible demonic regime moved in, and that's what those people have been living under for close to 50 years. So I'm pro setting them free. I really am. That is awful, and it's one of the worst things I've ever read. I'm not surprised, unfortunately. I wish I was, but I've like read enough about them that doesn't surprise me. Next. From Dr. Frank Turek, there are intellectuals in our society who are starting to realize the emptiness of atheism, not just intellectually, but personally. That's true. It is empty. It's sad. I've also never met an atheist who's like chill about it. It seems like they're always angry. And they're always like the equivalent, they're the religious equivalent of CrossFitters and vegans. They can't not tell, like, you didn't ask. It's like you didn't ask, you just are like living your life, and then someone's like, by the way, I'm vegan. It's like, okay, great. I didn't ask. By the way, I do CrossFit. Okay, I didn't ask. That's usually how atheists tend to be, although they might even be a little more chill than CrossFitters and vegans. But usually if you let them talk, you'll find that it's not that they don't believe in God, they're mad at him because they're blaming God for something terrible that either happened to them or someone else. And so they're never just like an atheist and at peace, which is probably why he said there's like no hope in it. Next. 55% of Democrats said there is another country they would rather live in than the United States today, according to an Elon, I've never heard of Elon University, YouGov poll. Okay, if you'd rather live somewhere else, why don't you move there? I wouldn't rather live anywhere else. There's literally no other country I would live in than the United States that I'd rather go to, which is why I'm going to stay here. So if you literally don't want to be here, like, why can't you leave? Next. President Trump reportedly told Netanyahu, Bibi, you better be careful or you will be on your own very soon. So again, another tough day for the people who think Israel's running the United States. Clearly, Trump is in control and Bibi's not, because Trump is handling him and apparently making threats. Next. New Pope Leo, I forget what those are in Roman numerals, holds private meeting with Bad Bunny in Madrid. Interesting combination there. Maybe Bad Bunny's Catholic. I don't know. I don't think I was going to say, I'm pretty sure he worships the devil, so I wouldn't expect him to be Catholic, but I think the Pope also worships the devil, so we can't really write that off. Between the two of those people, I actually think Bad Bunny might be a better person. And that's saying a lot because he's got some problems. And it sucks because I actually liked his music. Like before he started cross-dressing and like obviously flashing symbols of Satanism, I really liked his music. If I'm honest, I still like it. I just kind of distanced myself. Next. Just in, OpenAI announces it wants to give everyone on Earth a personal AGI. So basically that means everybody would have their own little AI bot sidekick, which sounds expensive. Also sounds like people would kind of no longer be people. If you had like AI readily available every second of your day for everything, you basically would just stop being a human. Because I already rely on it a lot just for things I could have easily figured out another way. Now I just use AI because it's so much faster. Next. Free satanic hugs at the LGBTQ Pride Festival for kids in Salt Lake City, Utah. Cool. So if you would like a hug from a gay Satanist, then you want to go to Salt Lake City. Next. Fraud Czar. Are you supposed to say the C? I feel like it's just Czar. VP JD Vance refers radical Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to DOJ for full criminal fraud investigation. I would just about bet my life they're eventually going to find ties to the CCP with Walz. Just mark my words. Next. DC Comics Pride Month issue features transgender Wonder Woman in alternate reality storyline. So if you guys liked Wonder Woman being a woman, those days are over. They have to be trans. Next. All right, this is a video. This is, I think, it's Trump in that interview where he just went unhinged. And the lady's like begging him, please, I drove all this way here. And he's like, no, I'm done.
Are crooked, and you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked, and so is ABC and CBS and CNN.
But Mr. President,
you're one-sided crooked network. So let's call it quits because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
Mr. President, let's please. I traveled all the way to Wisconsin.
I've sat in the rain with you.
I know.
I've sat in the rain with you for an hour, on and off in the rain, and I've given you enough time. You ought to straighten out your press because you know what?
Mr.
A
President,
country can never be great with a dishonest press.
We traveled all the way to Wisconsin for this interview.
The best part of that is him stepping on the mic. If I were her and he clearly was done talking to me, I wouldn't be like begging like that. Please, I drove all the way from Wisconsin. I'd be like, all right, if we're done, we're done. I'm not going to sit here and get yelled at. But I honestly, there's a little bit of respect I have for her for trying to continue the conversation. But he's like, nah. I don't know if he meant to step on the mic. That was great. Next. All right. I got to explain what this is. So it's called Encounter Coffee, and this is from Bishop Alan DiDio, who has a church somewhere in North Carolina. And he's one of my favorite people to listen to. So I didn't know they had coffee until the other day. And I got to explain the names here. So the Darby blend, he created that because it's a joke. Since so many people who demonize the pre-tribulation rapture position, they all believe this theory that John Nelson Darby created the doctrine of the rapture, which he did not. That theory has been thoroughly dismantled, but they still hold. They don't care about the facts. So he named this blend the Darby blend because he's like, if we're just going to make up stories that he invented things, then we might as well just make up coffee that he invented too. So that's the Darby blend. Now my favorite is the Calvin decaf blend, and the reason for it's the Calvinist version of coffee because it has a form of godliness but denies the power, which is why it's decaf. And then you have Azusa Street Mornings, which that's probably a powerful blend. And then the Wigglesworth blend, also likely a powerful blend. So all of them are great except for the Calvin blend because it's decaf. I'm literally about to drop $80 on coffee just because. Next. Tucker Carlson came out in support of Graham Plattner, who, by the way, is an actual Nazi. I don't know how anyone is voting for him in Maine. He said, I certainly appreciate his foreign policy views. Yeah, I bet you do, Tucker. I bet you do, because you would like to see every Jew on earth get killed. Tucker lives in Maine, where Plattner is the Democrat nominee for U.S. Senate. Source tells me Tucker is already in communication with Plattner, and he will be on Tucker's show in the near future. Big surprise. Tucker claims his criticism is restricted to Israel, but he admires the man with a Nazi tattoo and is likely going to help the Democrats take back the Senate. What an idiot. See, at this point, Tucker, just be a Democrat. Just be one. Everyone who defends Tucker in the GOP should be ostracized. Okay, yeah. Anyone still like thinking Tucker's conservative, bro, I don't know what else he's got to do for you to understand that he's not. So if you're a Democrat, you ought to love him because he's with you guys on like basically everything now. Next. United States has become the world's largest oil exporter per Reuters. Cool. So during this whole conflict with the Strait of Hormuz being closed, people have had to come to us for oil. Which is actually good for the United States. So that's one piece of good news in a day full of not so good news. Vice President J.D. Vance will appear on The View on June 16th. I don't know why you'd want to go into that room full of some of the dumbest people on earth, but I respect you because I wouldn't be able to. There's no way I could go on that show and not call them all like retards. So I'm sure JD Vance has some, what would be the word? what would be the word? Not poise. Some, I guess, decorum that I don't have. Next. Carmelo Anthony is appealing his conviction after his family and supporters allege racial bias. Dude, this case, okay. I hate that this case, I mean, it's terrible what happened, but I hate that this case has blown up like it is because people are going to make it about race. Here's what they should have, like, if the jury could have just not known, which it was publicized before it went to trial. So you can't really like not have them know, but it would be ideal if you could have had the jury not know the race on either end of this situation. That way you would simply look at the facts. Because if you look at the facts, it's an open and shut case. And you could swap the race around and it would still be an open and shut case. But because it happened to be the way that it is, everyone's like, oh, see, this is racism. No, it's literally a case of murder. And it could have been a white kid who killed a black kid, and that would be murder too. So it doesn't actually matter what the races are. But everyone's making it about that because they would rather whine about that than just look at the facts of the case. So now it's blown up and everyone's freaking out. And some people are doing some straight up evil things as a result of this case, which is awful. Democrats paid homeless to vote in California election fraud caught on camera. Yeah, they were asking people on Skid Row. And there were like homeless people saying, yes, I was paid. I was told to vote. If they pay me, I have to vote for Karen Bass or whoever that other, basically don't vote for Spencer Pratt. So, anyone who thinks it was a straightforward election in California, I don't know what to tell you, bro. You're either intellectually dishonest or you have an IQ that's like 10. Next. Justin Byron Donalds hits an all-time high in Florida's GOP governor race as James Fishback falls further behind. Good. James Fishback is a terrible person, and Byron Donalds is great. I hope 92% chance is pretty good, and Pauly Market like really doesn't miss, so that things are looking good for Byron Donalds. Next. Pure evil, Austin Metcalf's family flooded with death threats, people saying they are desecrating his grave after Carmelo Anthony's murder conviction. So basically, people wouldn't be happy unless a murderer went free. So now you want to kill the rest of his family because of the result of this case, which is justice. But, again, people don't care about facts. They're blinded by emotion and they don't care. So that's where we are. This is terrible. There's a new disturbing social media trend of BLM activists posting edited image of themselves urinating on Austin's grave. You can't get much lower than this. Okay, yeah. So I actually saw one guy commented and he said, dig him up and stab him again. Like, dude, you're up there with the Ayatollahs being one of the worst people walking planet Earth. It would be one thing if like the case wasn't open and shut, but it is. Where's I don't think I have it in here. Brandon Tatum. Because actually, is this it? No, but this is in the so he said, who's a black guy, by the way. He said, I grew up hating white people, and the scariest part is that millions of young black men are being brainwashed into that exact same mindset today, which I actually never knew that about him. I didn't know what his like upbringing was. He said the education system feeds black kids a steady diet of historical resentment until their undeveloped brains start picturing every single white person as the enemy. Blaming the white man for modern community struggles is a trap that keeps people broke and angry. It's driven by the media, because if you like, my church is the perfect example of how well people get along from different races and cultures if you just leave them alone. Like if you just put people together and no one's a murderer, no one's, like a terrible person, and you just put them all in one room, they love each other. They get along great. Like my church has like pretty much every every race represented there. We have people from Africa. We have African Americans. We have Latinos. We have Hawaiians. We have, or like Pacific Islanders. We have Asians. We have white European people, just white American people. We've got Native Americans, like literally everybody. There's like every Indians, every kind of person, and everyone gets along and loves each other, and no one cares about race. Nobody. Everyone's just like, this is my bro. This is my sister. This is my brother. Everyone's chill. So if the media would stop pushing it to try to force, like, talk people into hating each other and dividing on every subject, that's the problem. Just stop watching the media. Stop watching the news. They want you to hate each other. You know what? This I've said this for years. If someone would listen to me, this is how you solve racism. This is how you solve it. Everybody has to reproduce with someone who's a different race or ethnicity. That way people keep having babies that are mixed with, every different kind of thing. So there are no races anymore. No one knows what anyone is. No one knows what they are themselves. Everybody's mixed with something, and that's how you solve it. That's how you solve it. But nobody wants to do that or listen to me. So until then, we're going to keep having problems. Next. Okay, this is another terrible thing I'm going to read, and it made me sick to my stomach. So just a disclaimer, if you don't want to hear it, I don't blame you. I don't even want to, but I am going to read it. This is one of the most horrific stories I've ever seen. Aliyah Fortner, 23, a nonverbal woman, died in a group home in North Carolina. The medical examiner just revealed that she died of malnutrition. She was starved to death. She weighed just 84 pounds. The operator of the home, whatever that name is, something Wallace, has now been charged with first-degree murder. Wallace also allegedly stomped on Aliyah's head and tased her. Yeah, dude, that's straight up evil. Like, that's evil. What kind of home was this? A group home. So I don't know what a group home means necessarily in that case, but that's almost the equivalent, of like people you find out who've been like beating people in nursing homes and stuff like that, or daycares. Straight up evil. Some people, like, if you're a psychopath, you just shouldn't have a job where you have to be around people. There are plenty of things you can do and don't be like in a position of a caregiver if you have tendencies like that. Next. Elias, does that say Singleman? I don't know. He's an IRS worker. Why are there IRS workers anymore? I thought we were like not going to have the IRS anymore. Anyway, he appeared to threaten to bomb a Christian nonprofit. Also posted a video asking people to join the trans army in order to fight them icky evangelicals. Interesting. So another trans person who seems to have death on his mind. I feel like if you just took a nap and had some cookies, you'd feel better and maybe not want to kill everybody. But, just from, it's like a screenshot from a video. He looks completely unhinged in that picture. DHS Secretary Mullen just revealed absolutely shocking numbers. 450. This is another piece of awful news that made me sick to read. 450,000 kids were taken by unvetted sponsors under Biden. Some kids claimed that they were raped over 600 times. A third of all females were sexually assaulted while being trafficked to our border. DHS found 146,000 kids so far. So there's another, 300,000 out there. The Biden regime ran a massive child sex trafficking operation. You are not angry enough. I am disgusted is what I am. I mean, that does make me angry too, but I already knew about that. So that's awful. I wonder how many of them too. This is like disgusting, but like, how people as they've looked into Epstein's Island, it looks like there were ways potentially to dispose of bodies into the ocean. So I do want, and if people who are doing witchcraft and sacrificing babies and kids and things like that, how many will not ever be found because they actually went missing and are gone, which is awful. I bet CPS is in on it. Next. Breaking, Elon Musk has become the world's first trillionaire after SpaceX's record-breaking $75 billion IPO sent his net worth soaring past 1.1 trillion when trading opened Friday. So literally as of today, he's a trillionaire. Interesting. I heard that he was creeping up toward it, but I didn't know that he was that close, because it seems like you kind of seem like you're like, oh, billionaire, trillionaire, what's the difference? But there's a massive gap between billion and trillion, even million and billion. Like they're not even close to the same. Last piece of news. President Trump posts that voter fraud charges are coming in California. Well, we've been waiting since 2020 for the voter fraud charges for that election. Nothing's happened. So probably not going to hold my breath. All right, I'm done. Wait, am I done? No. Oh, I was going to watch the video. Okay. I'm not watching 6.5 minutes. There's no way. Yeah, I'm not going to watch those videos. I'm done with the news. In part 2, which I will start, it's 5:41. It's going to be a different live video. I'll start part 2 at 6 o'clock, and we're going to talk about haunted houses and ghosts, because I mean, again, I've got a biblical perspective. I look at things like that through the lens of the Bible. So I don't believe in ghosts to the extent a lot of people probably believe in them. So we're going to look at some of the most compelling cases that there was in fact something in the house. They believe it was, the spirit of a murdered person or something like that. So we'll look at some stories that are interesting and pretty well documented. One of them even led to a court case, which uncovered some things. So it's interesting. We'll do that in part 2. I'll start that at 6 p.m. All right. And, let me pop these up. These are the ways to follow. I forgot to add TikTok, but they have basically like locked my account. Apparently you're not allowed to post healing testimonies. If someone gets healed from cancer, you're not allowed to talk about the Disclosure Day movie that came out, I think yesterday. Multiple other things you're not allowed to talk about. So TikTok basically doesn't exist for me. But those are the other places I do. I'll put audio only on Spotify. And then if you want to if you want to support Amber Alert Podcast, those are the ways that you can. If you like this kind of content, some people like politics, a lot of people hate it. Some people like conspiracy theories, other people are not interested at all. Some people like the Bible, other people hate it. But what I like to do, why I put these in 3 parts, is to separate news and stuff like that. Put that at the beginning because that's actually my least favorite. I wish I didn't have to keep track of what goes on in the news, but it's usually better to be informed. I do enjoy conspiracy theories, but sometimes I don't necessarily think they are the way that they are portrayed. So we do that in part 2. Then part 3, we always get into the Bible, which is my favorite part, because that book will change your life. If you're miserable now, you don't have to stay miserable. All right. I'll come back at 6 o'clock for part 2. God bless you and goodbye.